The documentary opens with the warm glow of a late afternoon sun over Manila Bay, the golden light shimmering across the water like the entire horizon is smiling. And there, standing near the seawall with her windswept blonde hair and piercing blue eyes, is a beautiful Ukrainian woman named Alina. She looks like someone who has lived many lives, and she carries a quiet confidence that makes people turn their heads without understanding why. The narrator's voice enters, smooth and cinematic, describing how this woman has just gone through the most unexpected cultural discovery of her life. She had discovered Filipino men. She didn't come to the Philippines for romance. She didn't even come for adventure, not intentionally. She came because she needed to breathe. The war back home had made her feel like life had turned into a series of alarms, sirens, and uncertainties. She felt exhausted by fear, and for once, she wanted a place where people smiled without needing a reason, where life wasn't measured by tension, but by warmth. Her friends had told her to visit Italy. Others had suggested Thailand, but she chose the Philippines because she had seen photos online of locals laughing even under the rain, dancing during fiestas, and offering food to strangers simply because kain tayo was their love language. Something about that sincerity pulled her. She bought the ticket without thinking too much, and that one impulsive decision led her to discover one of the biggest cultural shocks of her life. Filipino men weren't tea like anyone she had met before. She realized this on her third day in the country. She had been walking around a mall in Makati, holding her phone and trying to figure out how to buy a SIM card. As she looked up to ask for directions, she accidentally bumped into a guy who was carrying a tray of food. The food didn't spill, but her embarrassment did. She blurted out, "Oh my, I am so sorry." The guy, a Filipino in his late 20s with warm eyes and an apologetic smile, shook his head and immediately said, No, miss. Ako pa dapat mag-sorry. Are you okay? Ingat po." That was the first surprise for her. That word, that tone, that concern. In Ukraine, men rarely said, "take care," unless they were close to you, like family or a boyfriend. But this stranger said it like he genuinely meant it, even though she was the one who bumped into him. In the days that followed, she realized it wasn't just him. Every Filipino man she encountered, drivers, security guards, vendors, baristas, seemed to have this built-in warmth, as if ingat was part of their natural vocabulary, always offered freely like a gift. She later told her Ukrainian friends, Filipino men say ingat the way Ukrainians say hello. It's their national love language. It didn't stop there. One evening, she was at a shopping mall carrying a heavy grocery bag filled with fruit, snacks, and bottled water. She underestimated how hot the weather would be and how quickly she would feel tired. An older Filipino man saw her struggling and said gently, "Miss, mabigat? You okay?" Before she could answer, a younger Filipino guy, maybe around her age, offered, "Ma'am, I'll help carry this. Where are you going? At least to the taxi?" She blinked. She was stunned. This would never happen back home. In Ukraine, men did help, but usually for people they knew. Here, strangers treated her like she was already part of their community. She let him carry the groceries. She tried to argue, "You don't have to." But he simply smiled and said, "It's okay, miss. Sayang naman lakas mo if you carry everything." She wasn't used to this kind of sweetness offered so casually, and then came the next surprise. Filipino men introduced her proudly to everyone. She learned this the moment she met Mark, a friendly guy she encountered in a coffee shop in BGC. He was easy to talk to, kind, and had the type of humor that didn't try too hard but instantly made people feel comfortable. At first, she thought he was just being friendly. But then, during a simple conversation, his barkada arrived. Mark immediately introduced her like she was some prized guest. "Guys, this is Alina. She's Ukrainian. Super bait. Sobrang galing kausap. She's new here." His friends greeted her so warmly, she felt like she was entering someone AS family reunion instead of a casual meetup. It felt strange, but also incredibly comforting. It was as if Filipino men didn't just meet her. They welcomed her. For Alina, this was a new kind of attention. Not romantic, not flirtatious. Just genuine admiration mixed with excitement, as if they were proud she was there. But the biggest, most unexpected surprise came on her 7th day in the Philippines. She had been messaging a Filipino guy she met online through a travel group. His name was Adrien, funny, soft-spoken, and surprisingly attentive. They decided to meet in person for dinner. She arrived at the restaurant first. Within minutes, she saw him walking toward her, and she also saw him carrying something. A bag, specifically her bag. She didn't give it to him. He asked for it the moment he greeted her. "Let me carry this," he said. "Para hindi ka mahirapan." She stared at him. She was confused. In Ukraine, men don't hold women's bags. That was something many men avoided because it made them feel embarrassed or emasculated. But here was Adrien, confidently holding her handbag in public like it was the most natural thing to do. She had to ask, "Are you sure? Really?" He grinned. "Why not? It's your bag. You need your hands free. It's normal. Don't worry." That moment did something to her heart. She wasn't in love, but she was definitely moved. It wasn't the act itself, but what it meant. Filipino men didn't overthink gestures of care. They didn't worry about their masculinity. They only cared about making her feel safe and comfortable. And that led to another discovery. Filipinos were clingy, in the sweetest, most wholesome way. They weren't clingy like they needed constant validation. No. Filipino clinginess was gentle, affectionate, consistent, and warm. When Adrien spoke to her, he always made sure she felt seen. He asked how her day was. He checked in on her. He made sure she ate. He asked if she needed help with anything. And for the first time in a long time, Alina felt emotionally noticed. Ukrainian men could be affectionate too, but they were often more reserved. They expressed love through actions, not words. Filipino men did both. They weren't afraid to show affection. Adrien would send messages like, "Ingat ka palagi," and "Don't skip meals," or "If you were bored, message me lang." It wasn't romantic yet. It wasn't a relationship. But it felt like one. The narrator describes how, in her interviews, Alina admitted she didn't know how much she needed that kind of emotional support until a Filipino man gave it to her so effortlessly. One day she asked him, "Why do you check on me so much?" Adrien replied with a shrug, "I just want to make sure you're okay. It's normal. Filipinos are like that." She laughed softly. "It's not normal in Ukraine." He looked genuinely confused. "Ah, why? Don't guys there care about their girlfriends?" She explained, "They care, but they don't say it so directly. They don't check every hour. They don't say ingat so much." Adrien smiled shyly. "Maybe we're like that because family is important to us. If we care about someone, even a friend, we treat them like family." That sentence hit her deeper than she expected. Over time, their bond grew. They weren't dating officially, but the connection was undeniable. They spent afternoons exploring cafes, trying street food, watching sunsets, and laughing at her attempts to speak Filipino slang. Everywhere they went, Adrien introduced her like she was a gift to the world. His friends loved her. Their girlfriends loved her. His family began asking about her. His mom even said, "Dalhin mo siya dito next time, ha? Para kain tayo." She didn't expect any of this. Not from a man she barely knew. Not from a culture she just met. Every day she learned something new about Filipino men that surprised her. Their sweetness wasn't forced. Their care wasn't strategic. Their affection wasn't calculated. They were simply raised that way. Her favorite moment happened during a fiesta in Bulacan, where Adrien invited her to join. She was nervous because she didn't know anyone, but the moment she arrived, everyone treated her like she was long-lost family. The kids asked for selfies. The titas complimented her beauty and offered her food nonstop. The titos teased Adrien with playful winks and nudges. Adrien turned red every time someone said, "Uy, ang ganda ng bisita mo." At one point, she asked him, "Are they teasing you because I'm here?" He laughed awkwardly. "They're just excited. They're happy you came. Filipinos get excited when someone important to them meets their family." She raised an eyebrow. "Important? Me?" He grew shy again. Yes." That evening, she watched him help his mother carry chairs, pass food, clean tables, serve drinks, and entertain guests, all while making sure she was comfortable. She realized then that Filipino men weren't just sweet to their partners. They were sweet human beings. The narrator shifts to showing Alina's interview clip, where she confesses that she used to think Filipino men were shy or simple or too gentle. But after meeting Adrien, she understood the truth. Filipino men were strong, secure, and deeply affectionate, without needing to show off. Near the end of part 1, we see Alina walking along a quiet street in Quezon City at night, talking on the phone with Adrien. The lights glow softly around her. Her voice is warm, her eyes soft. She tells him, "You know, you surprised me. I didn't expect to meet someone like you here." He laughs lightly. "Bakit naman?" She answers, "Because you care too much." He replies, "Is that bad?" She shakes her head, even though he can't see it. "No, it's just new, and it feels nice." The narrator fades in again, explaining how Alina had come to the Philippines to escape fear and uncertainty, but what she found instead was a kind of love she didn't know existed. Not romantic love yet, but a love born from sincerity, kindness, and gentle consistency. And for the first time in a long while, she felt safe. Part 1 ends with her lying on her bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about how surprising Filipino men were, and thinking about one Filipino man in particular. Someone who said ingat not once, but 4 times before he hung up the call. Alina woke up to the sunlight streaming through the window, her blonde hair splayed across the pillow, blue eyes blinking at the unfamiliar ceiling of her apartment in Quezon City. She stretched, thinking about the events of the past week. Each day had brought more surprises about Filipino men, and she felt like she was peeling layers off a culture she hadn't known existed before. The first thing she noticed that morning was a message on her phone. It was Adrien. "Good morning. Ingat ka sa labas, ha? Today's hot." She smiled, slightly amused. In Ukraine, mornings weren't usually filled with text messages reminding her to be careful, to drink water, or to take care of herself. Yet here, the messages were a subtle declaration of care, a daily ritual that warmed her. She decided to go out for breakfast at a small local cafe near her apartment. On her way, a young man riding a motorbike stopped at a red light and waved at her. She waved back, puzzled. When the light turned green, he slowed down beside her and shouted, "Miss, ingat sa daan!" Her heart skipped a beat. That phrase had become strangely familiar, and hearing it from strangers made her feel noticed, almost like she belonged, even though she was technically still a tourist in this city. At the cafe, she ordered a traditional Filipino breakfast, tapsilog with garlic rice and fried eggs. As she sat waiting, a young man at a nearby table noticed she was struggling with chopsticks. He leaned over and said politely, "Miss, do you want a fork? It's easier for first-timers." She laughed, grateful, and nodded. This was another thing she didn't expect. The gentle, non-intrusive way Filipino men offered help. No judgment, no condescension, just assistance with a kind smile. Later that morning, Alina joined a walking tour of Intramuros, eager to see more of Manila's history. The guide, a middle-aged Filipino man with a welcoming smile, noticed she looked slightly lost in the heat. "Miss, gusto mo po ba ng tubig? Here, have some. Take care." She accepted, smiling again at the care embedded in his tone. During the tour, she observed something peculiar. Filipino men were openly affectionate in small, seemingly inconsequential ways. They held open doors, offered seats, carried bags, and helped their friends and even strangers without hesitation. Alina noted in her journal later that these gestures weren't performative. They didn't seem to be done for recognition or to impress. It was natural, embedded in their behavior as if the culture itself had created a language of thoughtfulness. She returned home in the afternoon, tired but exhilarated. Adrien texted again. "Miss, how was your day? Don't forget to drink water. Stay cool, huh?" Alina couldn't help but giggle. She responded, "I think Filipinos have a special word for care. It's everywhere. I'm going to start saying ingat to everyone now." That evening, they arranged to meet for dinner at a small restaurant by the bay. Adrien had promised it was one of the city's best-kept secrets. When Alina arrived, Adrien was waiting with a small bag in his hand. "What's that?" she asked, curious. "For you," he replied, handing her the bag. Inside were local snacks, banana chips, dried mangoes, and a small bottle of calamansi juice. "For your first week in Manila," he said, "consider it a welcome gift." Alina felt touched. She had expected guidance, perhaps some advice, but not this level of thoughtful attention. She realized Filipino men often thought ahead about how to make people feel comfortable. It wasn't just about charm, it was about mindfulness, consideration, and subtle affection. During dinner, they discussed the differences she noticed between Filipino men and Ukrainian men. She pointed out how romantic gestures were often understated back home. Flowers on birthdays, sometimes calls, but rarely consistent care. Adrien listened carefully and smiled. Filipino men are taught to show respect and care in daily life. Not just to women, but to everyone. Family is central. It's natural to extend that care to someone you care about. Alina nodded, reflecting on how much that explained her observations. She realized that many small, consistent actions were the Filipino equivalent of love letters, messages in motion that didn't need words to be understood. A few days later, she experienced another surprise. She went shopping at a busy market in Quezon City, overwhelmed by the crowds and the unfamiliar chaos. Adrien had insisted he come with her. At first, she hesitated. She wanted to navigate the market independently, but he insisted. He guided her gently through the narrow aisles, carrying her bags and even holding her hand when a sudden motorcycle sped past. "What is happening?" she whispered, partly amused, partly overwhelmed. He laughed. "I'm just making sure you're safe. You matter." It was this combination of care, attentiveness, and warmth that kept surprising her. Each small act added layers of trust and admiration. She didn't expect that such thoughtfulness could be so pervasive among men she barely knew. That same week, she attended a casual barbecue with some of Adrien's friends. They teased him lightly for being overly attentive to her, but they didn't mock him. Instead, they appreciated it. "Nakaka-proud naman na ganito ka kaalaga sa bisita," one friend said. She realized Filipino men didn't just express care, they were celebrated for it. Their community recognized and valued it. Alina also observed the subtle way Filipino men were protective, yet respectful. When she walked into a room, they didn't hover aggressively. They offered guidance and assistance, but they didn't impose themselves. This blend of attentiveness and personal respect was so different from her experiences back home that it felt revolutionary. The following morning, Alina reflected in her journal. She wrote about how even simple words like "sige na," "ingat ka," or "thank you, miss," carried emotional weight. It was a language of care that went beyond translation, a culture of nurturing that she hadn't known existed. Later that day, she joined Adrien's family for lunch. The moment she entered, the Titas fussed over her like she was their own daughter. The Titos engaged her in playful banter, and the younger cousins tried to impress her with their English. Adrien introduced her proudly, emphasizing her kindness and wit. She laughed through the meal, noting how the entire environment exuded warmth, humor, and familial affection. By the evening, Alina understood another surprise. Filipino men were romantic in unexpected ways. It wasn't just about grand gestures or dramatic declarations. It was embedded in consistency, in the attention to daily life, in showing respect, in small acts that said, "I see you. You matter to me." She remembered a moment when Adrien gently adjusted the collar of her blouse before they went out for a sunset walk along the bay. She froze, surprised by the tenderness. In Ukraine, public affection between men and women was more restrained, more formal. Here, it was casual, unforced, yet unmistakably intimate. "Why are you so gentle?" she asked, smiling. "Why not?" he replied, grinning. "It's normal. You're important to me." Alina's heart warmed. That night, she lay awake, thinking about the depth and subtlety of Filipino men's care. She realized that what she had taken for granted in Ukraine, small, quiet attentions, were amplified in the Philippines, combined with humor, warmth, and a generosity of spirit she hadn't seen elsewhere. The next week, she traveled with Adrien to a small provincial town. During the trip, she observed him interacting with locals, always respectful, always attentive, always warm. When a vendor dropped a basket of mangoes, he helped without hesitation. When a child fell, he checked on them kindly. Even strangers recognized his gentleness and responded with smiles. Alina felt a sense of belonging she hadn't expected. It wasn't just about her relationship with Adrien. It was about how Filipino men operated in their world, a blend of humor, humility, care, and pride in their communities.